Well, everybody, warm round of applause for our guests, Aquma, MollySoda, and then we're going to be following that up with Paloma Dawkins.
Hello? Oh, hi. Hi, I guess we're going to introduce ourselves, and those are our Twitter handles if you want to, I don't know, tweet at us or something. But I'll check it after the talk, so I'll get back to you. I'm MollySoda. I am a visual artist. I worked on the game Wrong Box with Aquma. If you want to introduce yourself.
What else have you done in the past?
Oh, I don't come from video games. This is actually my first game. I'm kind of more of a video artist, visual stuff, so a lot more. All my art is about the internet. All the art I put out is on the internet. Everything is free and accessible. But I kind of come from more of a traditional gallery setting. So this is the first kind of piece of interactive media I've really made.
Cool. Hello, I'm Aquma. Let's see, I'm based in Los Angeles, independent game designer. I'm part of Glitch City, if you've heard of them, a group of indies in LA, and I went to USC for their game design program. And I'm also currently an educator, so I should be at school right now teaching high school students how to make video games, but instead I'm here. I think Twitch might be banned from the computers there, so there's no way they could see me here. But don't blow my cover. I'm sick today. Well, the school thinks I'm sick. I blew my own cover.
They wouldn't let you come here if you told them?
No, I think they'd be fine with it. No, it would be fine. But it's like a weird school thing where it's like you either have like a sick day or a personal day, and you have less personal days than sick days, so I used a sick day for today.
Cool. Great.
Yeah. But yeah, so Molly and I worked on Wrong Box, and maybe Paloma can introduce herself, and then we'll talk more about.
Hi, I'm Paloma Dawkins. Thank you for having me. I make games that are psychedelic and 2D, but in 3D space. Maybe you've seen some of my weird things.
Gardenarium?
Yeah, so I made a VR game. Actually, it was my latest thing, and it's going to be at tonight's party. And I got it working. So I'll show you a bit later after Molly's talk.
I should probably plug some of the other things I've done too. I always forget to. But most recently, I worked on Flotilla 2 from Lendo Games. If any of you have seen that, it's really fun. Spaceships shooting each other in VR. And then last year, I worked on a game called Dream Daddy. If there's any Dream Daddy fans out here. So I made some of the mini games that you play when you go on the dates. Skee ball, right here. Okay, so.
So we prepared a very nice PowerPoint presentation. I clicked on it, but it's telling me that I don't have Office. This is not my laptop, so.
Oh no.
So I think.
Click try.
Whose laptop is this? Is this
We'll
okay?
try it. It's Wagos's.
Okay. We don't have internet.
Oh, yeah. So there's an Alamo Wi-Fi that you can connect to.
No.
Okay.
Is this like a audience
this is the
participation,
internet.
choose your own adventure? Top
Yeah.
one. Yeah. And this is not the
Connect.
first time that this has occurred at Fantastic Arcade. And it won't be the last. But at least we're not playing the Windows Update game.
This kind of like goes hand in hand with our game, I think.
Yeah, it does
like
kind
so this could be our game. Continue, please. But PowerPoint's really fun.
You can close that, I think.
I can close this?
I think so. Yeah.
Or even if we connect, we can go to like slides and run it, import it through there.
I want to try. Right. I mean, y'all don't have anything else to do, right? So
Actually, this kind of reminds me of how I met Molly. Because I was at a coffee shop in Chicago once, and I was watching a talk by Molly. She was talking at a university, and you were trying to remember your Tumblr password, like during the talk. And I'm just like watching this, and I'm like, wow, this is great. And then she walks in to the coffee shop. Yeah. And I like kind of like hovered around her for like a second. I'm like, is this the girl? Like, and then I just said hi, and we became friends.
Yeah, it's never happened to me before. I've never had someone like literally be watching me on YouTube. Why is this happening?
This is not the first time this has
So
occurred.
we were like, Molly's like, should I bring a laptop? And it's like, no, they gotta have a computer that we can use. And sure enough, we have a computer, just not something to access our slides. Oh wait, what's this?
Maybe
This
we can
is
do the trial on
something.
this.
No. No.
Click
No.
this.
Close it.
X. X.
Yes.
I don't know what that's saying to me. So now, this is my favorite game.
Computers are hell.
Okay, I want to close this. What is Nitro?
We're about to find out.
Okay, I think I'm just gonna buy everything. How do you open a thing that doesn't want to be opened? What's brackets? Is there like a preview for Windows? Is this a Windows?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like a Mac.
It's
Are
a
we online?
razor. It's
I
scary.
didn't see that
Creating
side.
Neon snakes.
What's brackets? Oh wait, try 1 month free.
But do we have to download it? Or?
Yeah, it's fine. It should already it's a Windows. It should already have. I don't know anything. Allow access. Oh, don't. Should we create? Do you have an account?
We should just
That would be amazing. That would be so cool. Okay.
These are the credits. Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you.
it. Thank you so much. Thanks. Well, what should we do? Like, do we actually want to solve this problem? Or
Maybe we can go to Google's slides.
This
Or we
game
could
will be
also
up
just-
for vote for our Audience Choice Awards, by the way, on
yeah,
Sunday.
so
Should we just play the
are
game?
we impressing you?
We could just like.
We can play the game instead.
Yeah.
Let's just do that.
Let's do it.
We had slides of like inspiration.
We had
stuff.
slides. I wanted to pull some things together. I want to talk about Neopets, but I guess we'll just do that now. So yeah, so we made this game called Wrong Box, and basically the way that it started was also very random. I feel like I only meet people very randomly, but I was asked to do a VR piece for a gallery like over a year ago now. And I am not a VR person. I've never done VR, and this gallery kind of, I think, assumed that I knew how to do that. And so when they asked me, I pretended that I knew how to do that. And then I went to Twitter and I was like, hey, does anyone know how to do VR? Because I need to work on a VR video, 360 video, and I don't know what I'm doing. And then Alejandro Aquma responded and was like, I do. And I was like, okay, well,
Yeah,
let's
so
do
we
this.
Yeah, so we started just doing like this collaboration where we would talk on Skype, and I'd be like, okay, here's how you do stuff in Unity, here's how you like lay objects out. So Molly then had a bunch of different images and GIFs, and then I just kind of helped set those up, and then just did some of the cleaning up side of on the Unity side of it, and I did some 3D models for. There was like a. Why don't you talk about the idea of what you wanted to do for?
So basically, the idea is not super dissimilar to the game now, but I wanted to make kind of an homage to the early internet. I mean, my early internet. So I grew up in like the early 2000s. Graduated high school in 2007. So around that time, like 2002 to 2007 era internet, because I was just feeling, A, nostalgic, but B, just feeling frustrated with the way that the internet has sort of changed and how everything's become very streamlined and clean, and it just like not impersonal, but it's not an escape anymore, in my opinion, and where it was when I was younger and I was kind of figuring out like who I wanted to be and what my interests were, and finding communities online where now I don't really feel it's not a place that I go for that as much anymore. So I kind of just wanted to make a little piece about it and sort of incorporate some of my favorite elements of the early internet, especially like cartoon dolls, if anyone knows what those are. The first website I ever made was a cartoon dolls fairy website. So just kind of playing back on my experiences with the early internet, and also kind of the game actually, the VR piece ends in a graveyard. So it's a graveyard of everyone's old usernames and old like LiveJournal accounts and MySpace pages and whatnot.
They're dead now, so.
So there's a lot of like sad. It's I think on the surface it's quite like happy and beautiful and like fun, but I'm honestly just very sad, and it's kind of supposed to be a little sad.
Yeah, so Molly reached out to me about a year ago. So it's been like on and off for the past year. We've been working on this. This is actually the first time that we've met in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Molly's based in New York, I'm based in Los Angeles, and we just like we're friends through the internet. So it's weird because like we've been Skype call and like working and like going back and forth working on this game for the past year, but it's like, oh, I don't know what you like look like in person. So it's kind of a cool.
Well, you know what I look like in person because of Skype.
Right.
But like not in the flesh.
Yeah. But anyway, so now we can hug, yeah.
Now we can hug and look into each other's eyes.
And say, what did we get ourselves into?
But after we made this VR piece, I was like, actually, I don't think I like VR for what I was trying to do. And so I asked Aquma if he would want to make like an actual desktop game. Because I was like, this VR is like cool and all, but it's kind of like doesn't work with the way that I like to put out content, because I like for everything to just be online and free and accessible. So that's why like I'm always dumping videos on YouTube or like putting things kind of anywhere that anyone could find them. So that's what sparked the idea for this more like long form interactive game.
Yeah, so we just kind of like brainstormed all these ideas. What do you remember from the early 2000 internet? And like we came up with a list, and we thought, okay, how can we get gameplay out of these things, or something that resembles gameplay? So we can kind of walk through some of it. This mouse actually doesn't click with the left for some reason.
Is it plugged in?
It's plugged in, but it right clicks but doesn't like to left click.
It's not like it's not a talk unless there's like a million technical issues.
Okay. Do you want to narrate it?
Yeah, I can narrate. So the game is really based off of, my personal experiences on the internet, as well as this is kind of like a very accurate model of what my bedroom looked like. So we kind of start out in a room. It's sort of implied that you are kind of packing up. It's your childhood bedroom, and I'd like to include like little elements that would have been found in my room. So right here we have like my diary, like my actual diary from when I was 14, and you can leaf through it and read some angsty Christmas wish list and some dashboard confessional lyrics and, so, yeah. And throughout the game, you'll kind of see like personal, random kind of mementos that I included. My room was actually bright yellow, so.
Does anyone have an old stereo like this one?
Yeah.
A lot of just can't get those anymore,
And
right?
the 5 CD,
Right?
yeah, the 5 CD changer.
Mine was 3.
Yours was 3?
Yeah.
I think they made a 3.
Yeah.
The guitar case.
Okay.
What? Iowa?
I've had
I don't know the brand.
AIWA. I think I had one like that, yeah. Okay. So you made a computer, and you're booting up your old computer from when you were little.
Yeah, so you're like, oh, this old thing. I hope we don't spoil the whole game. Has anyone played it yet?
Couple
Cool.
people.
Some people. I would love notes as well, if anyone has notes.
So this is doors.
So this is like Windows, but
it's
doors.
like Windows, but it's, yeah.
So everything's like a knockoff in this game.
You want to talk about the music?
I love it with the music.
Or who made the music?
And the music is by a person named Felix Walworth, who also plays as the band Told Slant. So they did some of the music for the game. And for the music, we really wanted like it to be like MIDIs that would load onto a web page when you like went onto GeoCities or whatever. So you've been sucked into the computer and you're in this tunnel or conveyor belt, whatever you want to think of it as.
Good devil. Oh, yeah, see you later.
And I'm like a huge hoarder of all of these gifts, so I didn't have to look for any of these. I already had all of them because I have like archives upon archives of like old gifts because I'm afraid they're going to go away. And I think part of this game was also my fear that things are getting lost and like things are rotting online because websites really don't have a very long lifespan. And I think when we first started using the internet as teens, especially, like, it wasn't precious to me. Like, I didn't think about saving anything or holding on to anything. And now that I'm getting older, I'm like, oh my God, I have to screenshot everything. I have to save every single element into like all of these folders onto all of these hard drives. And I'll be really happy to have it eventually. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that was on like my old LiveJournal accounts and my old Zanga accounts. I don't know if anyone used Zanga. So a lot of it's like my pictures and my shadow.
So you have to try to log into your old, not AIM, but ASL, like
ASL.
age, sex, location.
Instant Messenger.
So you need to find the password, but it's actually here.
We're like actually just spoiling the entire game for you, which was not our intention. So we're really sorry.
I can't type, so I think we're not going to be able to progress.
Why can't we type?
I don't know. Like,
Whose computer is this? Can't do that.
I'm not that good of a
Not
programmer.
a feature in this game.
I don't know how to do that. Everything's faked that you see.
You didn't actually make a whole OS in Unity. That would be wild.
I mean, we kind of did. It just only does what we want it to do. Yeah, I don't
Very
know.
sad.
None of the... Oh, that's probably it. I'm not a
Closing the
good
window?
programmer, so...
No, I think it worked.
There it goes.
Oh my God. We don't even know how to play our own game.
So we're going to start a community FAQ. So if you want to contribute that tip to
I'm
it.
being called out.
Okay, so only one person is online. When you go, here are all your old friends that were there.
So I think I really wanted it to feel like a barren wasteland, and like everything was just no longer inhabited. So you're kind of just like looking for any sort of connection at this point, and kind of like seeing what's left. So, you know, you interact with a couple of people in the game, but I would say that the game, for the most part, is very solitary. It's very exploratory. You're not, you're just kind of experiencing this world, and things are revealed to you as you find things. So Lucky Charm is basically like not interested. They don't use ASL anymore. And also RIP AIM. It's been almost a year since the last chat.
I used to like leave my AIM on overnight. So I'd have my computer on, like, what if someone wanted to message me at 2 in the morning? And when I was in
Yeah.
high school, it was like a perfectly logical thing to do. It was before you had like, you know, your phone and people could just message you there. Okay.
Do you know what Face Pages is? Can anyone take a guess?
Never heard of that.
Yeah, in an alternate universe where Google Plus was Facebook, that should be the next game.
So they sent you an the away message. No, it's the away message when you leave and you get an auto reply.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, you're not supposed to see the edges on this because of the formatting.
Don't tell them.
You're supposed to see.
Just don't tell them.
Okay. So stare at this for 30 seconds,
And then look at your hand.
It'll tell you.
Is it working? We shouldn't play the whole thing, right?
I
We
don't
should
know.
like leave it.
So the idea is like it got corrupted while you're trying to do it.
Yeah, the thing about this world is that it's not quite right. So I wanted it to really mimic the way that you kind of go searching for old things now, and everything's kind of broken down and corrupted, and all of your pictures are missing, you know? Everything's like a broken image link.
It's kind of neat though
So-
with the after image. So I don't know if you remember, like they had like websites where the image would scroll and then you look at your hand, everything's all warped. Or there's the one where it's like the image of Jesus, but it was like negated, and then you look at it and then you like close your eyes. Oh, I see Jesus. I'm a believer now, or whatever. But it was just a trick. It just burns the image into your eyes. So we were trying to capture that. And it's been interesting testing it because I'll like look at that, and then like when it stops, I'll like whatever I see next on the screen will be warped. So it's like, oh cool, it actually
It does work.
It works. A little analog trick in a digital game. Okay. So this one, you can click, and then these flowers grow. And if you click on the flowers, does anyone recognize that song in 2 notes, 3 notes?
I do. I don't know that one though.
That one.
Click it again.
It's random. Ah, middle school.
So
Ugh.
iconic.
But yeah, so this pop-up ad shows up, and then I think
I don't want to give the whole game away,
Okay.
so I don't think we should play the whole thing. But yeah, you kind of you end up in this world, and everything starts to sort of deteriorate, and you'll see that happen a lot through the game, where certain certain things start to kind of melt your computer a little bit.
And then there's ads for face pages.
And then you have Facebook, and then Face Pages is constantly sort of looming in the background throughout the game, and it's sort of supposed to be kind of this omen lurking.
So then someone comes to save you.
Was anyone into Neopets? I assume like everyone was, right? So I also, I wanted to bring in things that were really dear to me as a tween and teenager, and Neopets was sort of something that I wanted to make sure was captured a little bit. So we have our dog, Pringle, who is a knockoff Neopet. And you interact with him quite a bit in the game.
So I probably should just go through the portal. Let's give you a breather after all that intense GIF and ad madness.
Hi, Pringle.
You can see all my tricks. Just pretend that it's letterboxed on the sides. Okay. Should we leave it there?
I think we should leave it there because if not, we're gonna like give the whole game away. But yeah, you'll have to play it to see how it ends. But there's a lot still left. Actually, a bunch of my favorite scenes are in this map, and the map is also very kind of based off of Neopets. Obviously, it doesn't look like Neopets, but I was thinking about the Neopets fairy map specifically. Fairies were just a really big part of my like upbringing online. Like I was just really into fairy forums and fairy Neopets and fairy dolls, and so they kind of make a lot of appearances. But I think the thing about this game is that it is very reminiscent of everyone's experience, but I think we all had such like, the internet used to be this place where we all had our private sort of moments with it, where we would go to like our forums or like our websites or whatever before it got super streamlined, and it was like, okay, you go to like you alternate between Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like the top three. Huh? Tumblr's I'm still on Tumblr, but no one uses it anymore. Although there is a really amazing like group of teenagers on Tumblr who are really into like 2007 like scene revival, and they kind of gave me like a lot of inspo for this game because they just like keep up these blogs where they post like all this imagery from like this era of the internet and like this era of fashion, and they're all like 17-year-olds, so they weren't even around for it, or maybe they were like babies, right? So there's like an interest. It's already become like a market for teens, maybe because things like rapidly change.
Yeah, it's been interesting though being like slightly older millennials working on this game, because even though we grew up like on different sides of the country and just kind of had slightly different experiences, it's like, oh, Molly has kind of like a Midwestern interpretation of like that era. I have kind of a Southern California interpretation of this era. So it's been really interesting kind of like meeting in the middle and like creating a lot of this based off of that same like shared experience, even though it all happened separately and online in the early internet era.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do we want to talk about?
Do you guys want to answer any questions?
Yeah, we should take questions.
You guys have any questions? There's one way over here.
I just wanted to, oh, hello. I just wanted to follow up on that last, do you have any specific, can you remember any specific examples of how those experiences were different geographically growing up? Did you guys discover something that where there wasn't an overlap, or did anything surprise you in that way?
I think just like the aesthetic of some of the like photography and just the way that we use the internet. And you're also a little bit older than I am, and I feel like when you're a teenager, like 3 years is a lot. So everyone, it just like varies. Like oh, this song like meant a lot to me, where like this song was like corny to me, or like this movie was like Napoleon Dynamite was cool, but maybe like this person doesn't think it's cool because they're a little bit older. So, but I don't know. Like, what did your internet look like in SoCal?
I mean, I guess there's a lot of AOL Instant Messenger. I mean, we all use like MySpace. I think I had a Zynga too by the time those came out, but I think like Neopets, by the time that was like big, I was already a little bit older. So I was like, oh, that's for babies. I don't.
For babies.
Not for babies, but it was like for babies.
I mean, yeah, but.
When you're a teen, babies are like 1 year younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I think some of it too is interesting just because it's like this digital game, and a lot of it's just kind of us replicating things that we remember. But then like Molly's been putting like photos and other like more personal touches into it. So I think just adding like the desktop scene where you have the different background images that cycle through. When I see those, it's like, oh, this isn't really my experience because like stuff in Southern California looks different. But it kind of induces, I think, what they call forced nostalgia, which is like Disneyland is a good example where most people did not grow up in Kentucky, rural Kentucky or small town Kentucky for Main Street. But when you're there, you're like, oh yeah, this makes me long for that time, even though I never experienced it. So it's kind of weird to see that because her photos influence my perception of the game, but it's like, oh, my experience was slightly different, but I can still like project onto that.
I love the idea that like historical cultural turnover has tightened up so much that we now have Tumblr nostalgia on Tumblr while it's still operating.
Yeah.
And it's like indistinguishable from like the actual thing that happened like not that long ago, really.
Yeah, so I teach at a high school, right? And like baggy pants are kind of coming in style
With
again.
JNCOs?
And
Sweet.
like a lot of music that was popular in the early 2000s is popular again. And it's weird to me because it's like I never left high school. Like I was there, I come back as a teacher, and everything's the same.
I'm a 40-year-old in community college with a bunch of 20-year-olds right now. I'm keeping my head down low, but I know what they're talking about most of the time.
Hey, so following up on the high school teacher aspect, have you shown your students this game, and do they have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, so when I got into Fantastic Arcade, I showed them like a gameplay video of it. I think a lot of them are just kind of like, whoa, you made a video game, that's cool. So I don't think they really connect as much to the content. Because I mean, it's interesting though, it's like seeing things that they play, because they have like their own little culture that emerges. So there's coolmathgames.com, and they also just search for unblocked games, and then there's websites, because our servers at school will block most game stuff, but they know how to get to like the other games. So I kind of want to like secretly make games to influence the culture, and then just upload them to coolmathgames.com, and then become like a legend that no one has heard of. By making games for teenagers.
That's a really good idea.
Escaping the server blocks. But a lot of my teens have played like Club Penguin. That was like a thing that they were all played as a kid.
I never
It
played
just
Club
went down
Penguin.
recently, didn't it? Club Penguin?
Wow. See, this is why we need to save everything. We need to like hoard everything. But digitally.
It's my workout for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious on like how you decided what things to put in from your childhood. Like, I'm really interested in games that like feature a lot of the creator in them, and I've considered putting in like things from my experience in my games, but I'm always kind of like nervous about like how much do I put in, like, and so that's something that I was curious about.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is like, you know, when you find something of yours, like a photo album or a diary or some sort of memento from growing up, and you're reading through it and you're like, oh my God, this is all so interesting because it happened to me. But like, it's not that, it probably wouldn't be that interesting to someone else that you like talked to Cody on AIM like last night about like someone else. So I think I tried to take things that felt a little more, I mean, everything's a bit universal, but I wanted to take things that people could sort of project themselves into, or things that felt a little more anonymous. So like, there's not really any photos that I use, like it's usually like a shadow or like or maybe a picture of my feet, because everyone was like taking pictures of their feet like when they were teens. Like your shoes, like your Converse or whatever. Not like foot pics, not like, not like
Feet and shoes.
shoes, sorry. Like prom and you all put your shoes in a circle or whatever. But I've always been working. I feel like I'm in my work in general, I'm constantly like reappropriating my own image. So that's always just been a struggle for me, figuring out like what's interesting to people and what's not, because I've made a lot of work about this era outside of this video game, and it's interesting to see like what people gravitate towards and why, and I don't know, but also you don't really want to like self-censor and think like, oh, this isn't interesting, because like maybe it actually is. I don't know.
I had a writing teacher who described it as personal heat. So like when you're writing stories, if you have something that's very specific to your experience and you put that in there, then when people read it, like sometimes I'll watch a movie like, oh, this happened to somebody. Like this is too specific for someone to just write it and come up with it. And I think that, especially for game stuff, like you realize like, oh, people will just like, their brains will make up the story, whether or not you tell them specifically, oh, this is what happened. So if you just kind of drop a couple nuggets here and there of like a personal stuff or a little bit of thing, then the people, when they play it, they're more likely to just kind of like have that influence their perception, and then they'll have their own interpretation of what happened. So, yeah.
I really like that you broke with the visual texture of the rest of the game long enough to show your actual handwriting. Like that's, even if I can't connect with like what you're writing about, like seeing like people's handwriting from when they were younger is like a really interesting thing. Especially with girls, because it's like bubbly a lot of the time.
It's cute.
Have any other questions? Do you have any questions on the stream, Sam? Oh, Sam, why don't you raise your hand, buddy?
Oh, hi, internet.
You should be watching our stream on here.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that, because we're getting feed from there, and it's going to loop over and over and cause audio issues.
That's part of the game.
Sorry.
I had a question about kind of the era of music during that time, because I feel like websites like MySpace and Pure Volume really led to me finding new music, so I want to know kind of what music y'all listened to during that era.
A lot of Rilo Kiley, and no, but I feel like MySpace for me was actually a lot less about music, and maybe because the music emphasis came a little bit later. I'm not sure. MySpace's like heyday was like 2007, 2008. But yeah, like I found out about music on like LiveJournal, honestly, and people would like upload like Mega Mediafire or whatever, Mega Upload, or people had like blogs dedicated to just like sharing music, and now that's not so much a thing. And I feel like we didn't really incorporate a lot of like specific music into the game. I think for obvious reasons, like we don't want to use some band like Motion City
Try not to get
soundtrack
sued
or something, but at the same time, music is so personal to people that I think when music comes up in interactive art or media, it's like sometimes if it's not something that I like connect with, it's hard for me to get into it. And so I wanted to, like, I didn't want to reference too much like My Chemical Romance or whatever. I wanted it to sort of be implied instead of it being, like it's just this band that's relatable.
Yeah. Okay, should we move on to?
Yeah, a quick round of applause for our first two guests.
So wrong box, we're finishing it up. Just a couple more things we have to fix up, but probably within the next couple weeks. It'll be done. Probably on itch.io. If you pull up my Twitter, my pinned tweet will lead you to a website where you can sign up for our mailing list. And we'll send an email out when it's out.
I really liked Sibo Mato when I was younger.
That's a cool thing to like.
I still like it. Does anybody want to play my game while I
Does-
talk about
Does
it?
anyone want to have a VR experience?
Yes.
Do it, Jerry.
I was hoping.
Also,
Also,
ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Bellick was just
Jerry,
inflicting
thank you.
Ghost Dentist VR on us earlier, so he's about to get his comeuppance. Will there be any drilling in Jerry's head in this game?
Later.
Okay.
Also, Jerry, it's a one-way sensor, so here. Don't turn around, but you might have to walk backwards at some point. You only need one. Oh, select English, please. There's also a French version. Is there sound or no sound? Oh, I see. Right. Oh. Okay. Oh. I see. Okay. So this
You're
is a
about to enter the
game
Museum of Symmetry.
that I developed
There
with
are no rules
the
and
National
no way
Film
to
Board of
lose.
Canada.
Just enjoy it.
Oh yeah. So the National Film Board of Canada is a government-funded, basically propaganda machine from like the 40s. But they also develop a lot of new and intriguing content, like using
Dear
technology
visitors,
and
don't be alarmed if
lots of
exhibits reveal
documentary
unexpected
and
patterns
experimental
that crack
animation
open your heart
films.
and
And
fill you with
so I started working with them a long time ago. Actually, maybe after this, I'll show you my first film with them. And I kind of just brought it up that I'd love to make a game with them, and they were like, hell yes. And so we started developing this project actually several years ago, and it started as a much different project. It started actually as a desktop game, which is opposite to Molly's situation. I decided to go with VR instead of desktop game because I thought it was like a little bit more of an embodied experience, which is what I wanted to experiment with. So you might know my other games. I made something called Gardenarium a couple years ago. I made a game called Alia. Last year, my game Palmistry was here. And yeah, so this is
This is your fourth game at Fantastic
Yep.
Arcade, is that right? Wow.
yeah,
That's
fourth
nuts.
game at Fantastic. Thank you.
Great adventure.
So this is Peak. He's a Pisces. And he's actually a cloud. So I got together with a friend of mine named Ashley Obscura to do the writing for this. And she's an amazing poet based in Montreal. And so we wrote up a really ginormous universe. And we only used like a small section for this game.
Do we need somebody to babysit Jerry's umbilicus?
Ooh, mama, that's looking real good.
You're good, Jerry. You die in VR, you die in real life.
There's also a French version of this game. It's free online. If you have a Vive, you can play it. And I recommend you try the French version because it's actually better.
And now you're ready to go.
Why is it better?
Because we had access to like Quebecois celebrities being in Montreal, and so we had a bunch of like really awesome voice actors do the acting. The English actors are great too. Just the French actors are really good. The music is by Kayla Thompson, and she's an extraordinary musician. She performs with Sophie from PC Music, and she's written for Rihanna and all these amazing things. And she composed the music, and
I like your glow.
we used Wise for like spatializing the sound. This is Dawn. She's an Aries. So Dawn is basically the start of the zodiac, and Pisces is the end of the zodiac. So that's why it goes from the dark to the light. This game is full of symbols. I know it just seems kind of like cutesy and whatever, but me and Ashley really went deep with the symbolism, and there's actually kind of like some subliminal messages in it. It's all very nice.
So tell us about what Jerry's doing here. Is he playing badminton with crystals?
Yes.
Awesome.
So this level represents
I bet paper misses being a tree.
this level represents chaos and destruction. The level before represents fear.
Insects are like insects, but from outer space.
I think we should start calling gloves hand pants.
Oh shit, the winds have cast us into Otto's lair. Oops. I wish I had a time machine app for my phone right now. Oh well, it's best you take it from here. Bye!
So this next character is an Aquarius.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have a level for each sign?
I wanted to, but the money people told me that wasn't a good idea. That we should just keep it scopable.
What was your workflow like, getting your art into the game? And
It was actually really difficult because I've never made a VR game before, and I was working with like people that have made plenty of VR games before, but they never really made like a thing like this, which is really like narrative. And I feel like I had a lot to learn while I was making it, because it's a different workflow entirely. Like, telling a story in VR is completely different than video games or comics or film, which is what I'm like used to. And so a lot of it was actually just sharing the universe, and like I would actually make a lot of like comics about the characters and share it with the team I was working with, which was amazing. They were called Casarara in Montreal, and they're friggin' insanely great. And so basically we just we're kind of like on the same page about the universe and what it was and what we wanted to like accomplish, and then decided what would be the strongest elements to include in the game. So a lot of it was just comic strips.
And let your mind wander.
And then, yeah, just
Let's try turning it into a garden
working on
instead.
it all together.
Come, peek into this one with me.
You have to put your head in, yeah.
Where can people play this? Where can they play it?
Oh, this is available on Steam for free. But you need a Vive.
And obviously, you'll be able to play it tonight at our party at Moha at
Right.
8.
So this is a bird that wants to dance. His name's Taurus. He's a Taurus.
Were there any books or films or things that you referenced or inspired by for this project?
There was a Dune reference a little while ago.
Yeah, true. Fear is the mind killer.
No, you're not, Jerry.
You have to water the plants. Do you have the? Oh no, you don't have it. Here, try this one. Do you see it? Do you see it? Oh, you got. Okay.
The question was about references.
Oh, okay, references. No, not really. I mean, we were really inspired by like sacred geometry and like Aristotle's idea of like each platonic solid corresponding to like an emotion and a element and like a color. So we based every level on like, yeah, like a platonic solid and a color and an emotion. This one is friendship. So you're kind of like making friends with this bird by helping her out.
Thank you! Right on! You don't hold back. I love it! Now, let's dance.
Yes. Oh yeah, also inspired by David Attenborough.
Feel free to dance in your seats while you're watching this.
Good work. That was so fun to see. He sure does love to dance.
This is Gaia. She doesn't actually have
What
a
about this sign
sign because she's omnipresent. Yeah. She's the queen.
Don't tell me Gaia sent you, right? Fine. Just
This
water the
is,
plants according to the
Virgo.
golden ratio. Remember that the short part must equal the long part. The long part's the same as the short part, divided by the square root of that other part. You know, the sequence that drives all of creation. And if that's not clear, too bad. No one can help you.
Shit. Do you see it? No, wait. Jerry, can you grab this other controller? I think it like transferred over. Here.
You sound disappointed.
You aren't listening. You're messing it all up. Oh, you frivolous hippie.
Take pictures of feet. So did you like plan a lot of this out in advance, or do you just kind of have a general idea, start making stuff, and figure it out as you go?
Like it's always been
Shut up,
about
Jerry.
these like 5 separate rooms that were basically about an emotion, a color, and a shape, and everything else was basically just jammed and like thrown in last minute. A lot of it was just as we go.
Any like happy accidents where you put something in and it ends up being like way cooler than you
Oh
thought?
yeah, it's like 100% happy accident.
dialogue in your other games?
It's mostly just written dialogue.
Yeah. How was it working with someone?
Oh my god, it was
For
so
dialogue.
fun. It was the best. Cause yeah, like basically, I had Ashley. She just like performed all the characters, and then after that we would show the game with like her dialogue to like to the actor, and then they would like record the audio. We would record their audio after. It was really, really fun. The NFB has an amazing sound studio too, so it's just like dope. Yeah.
And just to be clear, for the animation, you did all that by hand yourself?
Yeah. All the 2D animation is by me. All the 3D stuff is my technical artist, Elliot Clave, who is also amazing. He also did all the shaders and like, yeah, lots of integration.
I'm really impressed with. I mean, it was already impressive in like Gardenarium, seeing how well the 2.5D stuff worked in a 3D space, but like that it still works in VR is really impressive. It looks great.
You've come to the end of your journey. Embrace it. I am definitely not going down there.
So this is Sappho.
You are on your
He's a
own
Cancer.
time. Just
He or she.
let go. There's one last thing my manta buddies want you to see. Take this wand and, like your imagination, use it to get from one to another. Enjoy
Have you had
the
people who are like really into astrology play the game?
Yeah. A lot of my friends are really into astrology. Yeah, I don't think people really see the signs that much, except for you called it. I think it was mostly just for us as a tool to write the characters, to differentiate them, because at first it kind of all like seemed like it was the same voice because it was the same writer, and Ashley has like a really what's the word? Like particular style, and so it just all kind of seemed really like floaty and airy and nice, which is cool. But I also wanted some of the characters to be like rude or like self-conscious or something, so something to differentiate them. So it was mostly just a tool for us.
How is it doing the animation lip sync in a game versus doing it in traditional animation? Did you just do it the same way?
Yeah, actually, I just took the dialogue and then picked out the consonants and the like vowels that like come out the most, and I just animated the mouth doing that, and then just had it on loop. So I actually didn't.
Oh, you don't have to do like a really specific dope sheet or anything. You
No,
just-
yeah, it's just like a loop of like a mouth like moving. But it works, so.
Yeah, it looks great.
As long as it works. Are you able to teleport, Jerry? Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, I didn't know.
A girl went out to find a place, the home of everything, where all is bound within itself, and all the cosmos sing. The void appeared in dazzling threads, the space between the space. The center threw its edge away, the shape revealed its face. The pattern of pure harmony and balance all the same is the presence and attention you bring outside this game.
So the real like hook for like the NFB to help me on this was, I mean, basically I just wanted to make a feminine adventure story. And so the whole time it's kind of like concentrating on that, like being an adventure story.
What makes it uniquely feminine?
I mean, basically probably just my aesthetic, like really colorful and cute and like androgynous and like, I mean, a lot of the characters are kind of like flamboyant.
Maybe some of the interpersonal interactions too, versus like less about like, you know, explosions or something.
Right, yeah, it's all about peace and chilling and just like loving yourself. And
Yeah, I noticed there's not much murder in this game. What's
Yeah.
up?
No dental self-mutilation.
Right.
You guys want to take a question?
Yeah, question.
I raised my hand before you even said yes about questions, so thank you for saying yes about questions. It's been cool watching you bring stuff here for the last few years because I feel like you use a lot of this kind of like 2D art in a 3D space kind of thing, and I feel like I've been able to see it evolve over time, which has been really cool. Do you have tips for other people who maybe want to make these 3D spaces that they can explore, but maybe they're 2D artists and not 3D artists?
Yeah, I mean, just use your
Like me.
language. Like I started as a 2D animator, and I just one day decided I'm gonna make games because I can, and I didn't try to learn 3D or anything. I just knew that I would do best making like 2D animations, and like there's gotta be a way, and just experiment. And yeah, I use TV Paint, but I don't know if it's like very accessible. It's kind of an expensive software.
There's a good student discount if any of y'all are in school. I just got it.
Yeah, also, yeah, just hit me up. I can maybe help you out with like a code or something later.
There's another question here.
Hi, the game looks beautiful, and one
Thanks.
of the things, one of the things that I really admired was that you have all these elements that are like natural, but that have human elements, like the flowers with the eyes or the hands sprouting up, which could be really unsettling or creepy, but instead don't come across that way. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your process for making things like that are odd, but not necessarily like inhuman.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I guess I'm just really, like as a teenager, I was really inspired by Tim Burton stuff. And I think it kind of really informed the way I make things. And so as a kid, I never really thought that these scary Halloween things were freaky. I thought it was just like interesting and like, this is good art. So it just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of make things with that in mind. I mean, I feel like, yeah, otherwise I get a little bit too cutesy, a little too like pink, and I don't know, that's not really fun. I like a little freakiness.
We have a question up here from Jenny.
This looks super amazing. I also love astrology. I have two questions for you. The first one is, when you said that you spent several years working on this.
Yeah.
Was it completely full-time work or part-time on and off? And yeah.
No, it was really on and off, because the thing about working with the government is they take a really long time to do anything. And so sometimes it would just be rush, 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 and then stop for a really long period of time. And like during these long stops, I would actually make other games just to like not go crazy. So yeah, I made like Palmistry, I made Alia, I also made Gardenarium, like just in between these like stops. Oh, you're playing the French version now.
Oh, and my second question is, what is your sun sign, your rising, and your moon sign?
I am a Cancer sun with a Aquarius rising and a Sagittarius moon.
Nice. Another one here in the back.
Hi. I wanted to. It seems like actually the 2.5D style works better in VR than maybe 3D because you can control the perspective. Is that true? Do you find that you would be harder to go back to like working like full 3D like Ordinarium now?
Yeah, no, I love 2D. I feel like it just like adds so much soul because there's just so many things you can do with 2D that you can't do with 3D. And it's convincing, you know? I mean, this is like why Disney started in like 2D because it just really like suspends your disbelief. Like when you see a character dancing, you get the same emotional responses. Like your brain just fills in that like gap, you know? But I feel like when you're looking at a 3D dancing bird, you're like, this looks kind of real, but not really. And then your brain's kind of like, I don't know, it goes into that uncanny valley, and I don't like that. I don't like that feeling.
I guess it seems maybe like it's a little easier to get away with turning the sprites towards the camera and having it not be noticeable in VR, and I don't know exactly why that is, but it seems it works great.
I'm like heavily dependent on Billboard, Unity's Billboard script.
We've got a question from Lauren.
Hey, Lauren.
I find myself super fascinated by the environments that you do that are done with really intense layered drawings. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about process there.
Process?
Yeah, because those are like really mind-boggling to me.
I don't know if she heard the whole question. What was the beginning part about layers?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, kind of.
So yeah, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your process for some of these layered drawn environments, because I really love those and I find them a little boggling.
The layered,
yeah,
the layered
like
environments.
For instance, in the area with the mantas, you have all these sort of like swirling layered structures that you're swimming through, like those, for instance.
Oh yeah. I love doing that. I did that a lot in Alia. I like just these like slices. I mean, yeah, it kind of like is my interpretation of 3D, is this like kind of like weird psychedelic like layered universes that just like seem 3D, but it's all just 2D slices. So just basically I look at a shape, like a symmetrical shape, and then I kind of put it like transparent, semi-transparent on TV Paint, and then I just animate a symmetrical blob, and then I just have the blob move and then reach itself, and then whenever I put it into the engine, like I have a script that it layers sprites like in a line like that, depending on like their name, and so I just number them one to whatever, and then have it do that, and yeah, it's like, and the script I have layers them, but it also colors them, and maybe not in this, but in other, like in Alia, it would like shift colors, and the script also kind of like makes it move a bit, like wiggle and like go up and down, and yeah.
That's awesome. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Do you guys have any questions for each other? And this can go in either direction. I know Akuma's already been kind of asking you some questions. But
oh, there's a question there.
Where?
This is just a question about the voice acting. Like, did you get to audition those characters, or like the actors that played those characters? What was that process like?
That was so fun. Like, yeah, basically, because the NFB is a government-funded institution, the NFB, they have to work with union actors. And so we got a list from a bunch of agencies of actors, and they would send us demos. So like for the Aquarius character, we asked for like a Jamaican accent, and so we like asked for like people to like send us their demos of like a Jamaican accent, and then we would pick whoever sounds more convincing or just like more emotion in their like performance. Yeah, it was super fun. And then they would just come in and we would record them at the NFB music studio.
It's really exciting for something like this to be able to work with union actors. That's something that's really difficult a lot of times for indie games.
I know, it's rare.
Yeah, you could talk about that. Yeah. This is something that we've been talking about for a while.
Really?
We're both union actors.
Is there did you use a low budget contract with? I assume it's Actra, yeah.
Yeah, it's with Actra.
And do they have a separate contract that you can use as a lower budget production?
No, I this is like relatively normal budget. I don't know, yeah, there wasn't. It was like a normal contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a low budget contract that you can use for American actors now that foreign entities can use as well with the
really?
American Union. Yeah.
Oh,
Brand new,
busy.
yay. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, we've had some changes to some of those contracts. The guild has figured out that low-budget games exist now, which is a really good thing.
Oh my god.
But I'm assuming the film board is probably
Yeah,
well
the
equipped.
thing about this is we could only work with Canadians. Yeah, so everyone's a Canadian on this production.
We're all Canadian, basically.
You wish.
We will be soon.
Does the Canadian Film Board have an agenda when they commission someone to make a game? Is there a reason they want to commission a game?
I think they just want to maintain an international presence, and a lot of what gets press and what gets spoken about is new media stuff. And actually, I had the amazing opportunity of going to Argentina the other week, and I was extremely surprised by how many people knew about the NFB. So it seems to be working, because they explained it to me. Argentina used to have this show for children, and the person that produced the show wanted free content basically, and nobody would give them free content except for the NFB. And so a lot of Argentinian animators and just everyone in Argentina has grown up with the NFB, so it works.
I'm assuming the having it be bilingual was a requirement, right?
It wasn't actually for this interactive project, because the interactive wing of the NFB is brand new, and so they're kind of just making the rules a lot of the time, but I really pushed for it. I also wanted there to be a Spanish translation, but that didn't fit the mandate at the time.
All right. I think we're feeling pretty good about this. I hope that you will all join us tonight at the party and get to try out all three of these games firsthand. They'll all get their own special treatment at the Museum of Human Achievement. Please, a very large round of applause for all of our guests up here.
Thanks.